Hello everybody, Chris here, and in this part of my Unity tutorial series, I'd like to start talking about creating a save screen as a menu, and also load screens and a window to prompt the user to input a save name, which is pretty common in games. So first I'm going to be talking about the setup and the Unity hierarchy, and then we'll be diving into the code, and I expect this to take a few videos because there's actually a lot of components to cover, and I want to make sure I explain everything as thoroughly as I possibly can. So first let's get started by running the scene in its current state. So currently we have a button for the load screen. I'm going to go ahead and click that, which pops up a panel. And this panel contains several buttons. These are the names of the save files. Obviously, in the real thing, you'd probably lay this out a lot more aesthetically pleasing. And then at the end of this list of save files, we also have a button for creating a new save. And at the top right-hand corner, we have a button for closing out the current window. So how these buttons in the middle are actually being laid out and managed is with a grid layout. So you can see here, it's a grid layout group. You can kind of specify whatever alignments you want, how many columns you want. Currently it's set to middle center for child alignment and fixed column count with a count of 2. So whenever a new button gets added here, it's going to keep going 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And these save buttons are being created after the game starts because obviously the game code itself isn't going to know exactly how many save files you have. So this script called save screen has to figure out how many save files you have and then create a save file button for each one using the information found in that save file. So 135 and then the name of the scene which that was saved at, which I guess is load game scene. And then Joe as the name of the file. And then load game scene. You can also see the date where those files were previously saved. And this last button, the new save button, that is an extra which gets added on after all these other buttons have been created. And this one will always be there even if you don't have a save, because obviously even if the player is starting for the first time, you want them to be able to start a new save. Now, one of the things you might be wondering about is what happens if you create a new save? How is this going to update to have 4 buttons instead of 3? We'll talk about that. You can do that in the code. It's basically just telling the grid layout to refresh everything on it. But let's go ahead now and demo the new save button. So obviously when you click on the old saves, it's going to save over that. You could also have that pop up like, do you want to change the save name or anything similar to that? So let's go ahead and try the new save button and talk a little bit about that. When we click the new save button, another panel pops up, and yeah, we could probably make that a little bit more solid or put it off to the side, once again making it more aesthetically pleasing. But the components we have here in this second panel include a text area for the title, which should be set to something better than new text. Maybe I'll take care of that in a minute here. A button for canceling the save, which is down here at the bottom. A button for confirming the save, which is more important. And then the input field, which is this right here for typing in the name of the save. So canceling the save, when you do that, it just takes a reference to this panel and toggles it off, which is basically GameObject.setActive. But the actual save button has another script attached to it called new save button. And one of the, or maybe the most important part of that, is that this new save button script has a function called create new save, which is going to take a reference to the text that's in this input field up here. You can see new save input field, I've assigned that. And it's going to try to save the game with that name. Also contains a reference to an error text, which is actually currently in the save panel over here, though really that could be any text block you've put inside of your panels. A reference to the save screen, which is the original panel, the one that's opening all this stuff up, and the save text field, So actually, this new save import menu, that is a reference to the panel itself, the panel that contains all of these little components. And then the save text field, that's the text over here, which actually contains the string for the file name. So pulling from this script, we've assigned the new save button .create save function to the onClick. So whenever we click confirm save, if a save name has actually been entered, it's going to take that name and it's going to try to save it to a file. Currently I have it set up so that if this is empty, it just errors out. So I'm going to confirm the save there. I actually have a couple of breakpoints set up here, which is perfect because now we can talk about it. So the create new save method, it gets the save name out of that save text field that I was talking about, the import field. Checks if it's empty. If it is, throw an error. And basically, we're doing that by updating the text box, the error text. So if the save name is actually set and the file currently does not exist, it's going to save the game and populate grid. This method basically updates the grid, gets rid of the old buttons that are inside of the grid, and puts new ones on it. It's going to take this new file save name window and turn it false. If the file name does already exist, we don't want to have multiple files with the same save name. It's actually not really possible when we're talking about a directory file system. So we would throw the error, the file name already exists, and hopefully the user can go ahead and put in a different name. So in practice, where you want the error text to probably be is in the new file name window rather than the save screen, because that's where we're going to be looking when the player decides to put in a duplicate file name and it errors out. So anyway, back at the save screen, since the new name window has gone ahead and disabled itself, we're back at the window. The grid has been repopulated, so we have 4 buttons instead of 3. And the new save button is still there, still at the end, so you can get the idea. It's basically a list of save files here containing their information. And then this last one is just a new save button. So the next thing we need to dig into for this video is the save screen script.